I don't know in which way, shape, or form they thought that this was a good idea. She's back. Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another true crime episode. So if you're ready, let's go. Alright y'all, so we just gonna be hopping straight into today's case because this is my second time filming this video. If y'all been on my community tab, then y'all know that I was having a time trying to upload this case last time I filmed it. So I'm about to try to make this quick, and we're gonna pray that it uploads properly today. So yeah, let's get into it. And if you've been here for a little minute now, then you already know that I am going from coast to coast of America in alphabetical order, so from Alabama to Wyoming, and today we are in Maryland. So we're going to start with a young man named Gabriel Struss, who was born on August 7th, 1997, and he grew up in Annapolis, Maryland. Now, I didn't really hear or read too much about his home life and who he was and how he grew up and stuff like that. But from everything that I did learn, it seems as though he did not have the best life growing up. His parents were pretty uninvolved, and it's said that he essentially raised himself. And as a result of his home life, he was constantly looking for a sense of stability, a sense of familial stability. And he would get a little piece of taste of this when he met a young lady whose name is unknown, and he would eventually start dating this young lady. And at the time, they were 18. He was 18 and she was 13. Now, we're not really gonna talk about how that is, but just know, we know, like, sir, Gabriel, she's 13. How y'all met, where y'all met, and why y'all start dating, I don't know, but I'm side-eyeing the fuck out of you. But that's why we don't know said girlfriend's name, because she is in fact a minor. Now, despite us not knowing her name, we do know a fair bit about her family, and she came from a pretty big family. It was her mama, her daddy, and her 4 siblings. So her mama and daddy had a total of 5 kids, and their names were Anne and Anthony Anastasi. And these two had a very long-standing relationship. By the time this case took place, they had been married for 18 years, and they're both originally from Maryland, where this case takes place. However, at some point during their lives, they moved to Michigan, and they moved to a place called Sault Ste. Marie. Salt. Is it salt? Or do y'all say salt? I don't know. Anyway, they moved to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, which is in the Upper Peninsula. And I was really confused by that because I always was under the impression that the Upper Peninsula was a part of Wisconsin, seeing as how it's like touching Wisconsin. It's like the Wisconsin and then the Upper Peninsula. But nonetheless, it is not. And so, yeah. And while Anne and Anthony were in Sault Ste. Marie, they was essentially just living life, working, getting money, and raising their kids. And everything seemed to be good. It was all copacetic. Until, right? Yeah, we know. Until Anthony decided to have an affair with a young lady who was 15 years younger than him, named Jacqueline Riggs. Now, a little bit about Jacqueline. She was born on December 28th, 1989 to her parents, Thomas Riggs and Melissa Walker, in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. It was said that she loved having coffee and conversations with her friends and family, and that she was an amazing auntie, and she loved watching her niece and nephew. And I really don't know what it is, but it really just gave me cool auntie vibes, you know? Now, this little piece of information about who Jacqueline was may or may not be controversial to some of y'all, but it was also said that she loved taking road trips. Now, me, myself, personally, I love a good road trip. Not all the time, because I'm real good on catching an airplane. Not these days so much, but you know, I'm good for flying. We can fly there and fly back real quick. But I love a good road trip. I like the scenery and everything. And that's probably mostly because I be trying to channel my inner Britney when I be on road trips, you know? Anyways, this is the person that Anthony was having an affair with. And as it normally goes, Anne found out about this affair that Anthony was having with Jacqueline. And obviously she wasn't gung-ho about it. Now, it was never clear to me how long this affair lasted and at what point during the affair that Anne found out. Like, if she found out in the beginning stages, in the middle, or whatever. But whenever she found out, decisions were made. And the decision that I thought that should have been made was for her to take her and her 5 kids and hit the road, Jack. Or have him and Jacqueline hit the road. But that's not the decision that Anne came up with. Anne decided that she would remove her husband from the situation, and she She pretty much was like, yeah, pack it up, reel it in, we going back to Maryland. And so that's exactly what the family did. Her, Anthony, and their 5 kids moved from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan over to Lothian, Maryland. Now, like I said, this was a plan that Anne had to take Anthony away from Jacqueline, to keep him far, far away. But baby, if she thought 1,300 miles was going to keep him away from Jackie, at this point, it's 2015. So not only do we have cellular devices, we got smartphones. We can take photos. We have social medias. Like, girl, 1,300 miles ain't doing shit. And not only did Anthony and Jacqueline stay in contact with one another, but Anthony thought of a beyond brilliant idea. So one day he called Jackie up like, hey, you trying to move to Maryland? And Jackie on the other end like, yeah, I'll move to Maryland, but I ain't got nowhere to stay. And Anthony like, girl, don't even worry about it. I got you when you get here. And she was like, bet. So 25-year-old Jackie packed up all of her things and headed out to Maryland. And when she pulled up, she like, okay, so where I'm gonna be staying? You got me a house around the corner. You got me a penthouse. You got me an apartment. Like, what's good? And Anthony was like, girl, no, you my woman. You staying with me and my wife and our 5 kids. I got you this nice little spot set up in our basement and we good. Now, I really don't know if that's how the conversation went for real, but that's just what I imagined it to be like in my head. And I also don't know if this was discussed, because it could have been discussed prior to her getting there, if she already knew that she was about to be staying with him, his wife, and their 5 kids. And I'm also not sure if Anne knew that Jackie was coming to stay with them, because I really just can't imagine either one of them thinking that this was a good idea. I really don't know. But however it went and whatever discussions was discussed, Jackie moved in. And just like Anthony told her, she had this nice little setup in the basement. Well, it was kind of not that nice, but she had a setup in the basement. And Anthony must have been that dude, because at some point he even got Anne and Jackie to experiment with each other. But Anne wasn't feeling it. She was like, yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. It's wrap this shit up. It's not working for me. And Anthony didn't fight her on this. He didn't protest. But what he did do was stop spending time upstairs on their marital bed and start spending all his time downstairs in that basement with the door closed with Jackie, according to Anne. So now moving forward a little bit to October 5th, 2015. It's 12:57 in the afternoon, and Anne Arundel County receives a 911 call. And this is that call that came from the Anastasi home.
Anne Arundel County 911.
I just spent the day taking kids to the dentist and then going grocery shopping. I'm supposed to be leaving to take my husband to a doctor's appointment right now, but he's not responding at all, and he's got his gun laying next to him in the bed.
Do you think he shot himself?
I don't know. I didn't turn the lights on in the room.
Hopefully I was able to play it, but if I wasn't, in that 911 call, it's Anne Anastasi calling to report that her husband had shot himself. And if y'all heard what I heard, and if y'all real true crimey like I'm real true crimey, then y'all know what's wrong with that phone call. Y'all know exactly what's wrong with that phone call. I'm not even gonna say nothing about it, because we know. We see each other. So the next thing I'm about to say is not for you, the ones who see me. But this is for the clueless ones out there who have no idea what's going on. So in that 911 call, when the dispatcher asked, what's your emergency? Anne didn't say, hey, my husband's right here with a gunshot wound. My husband just shot himself. Anne said, yeah, I had went to the store and I had did this and I had did that and this, that, and the third. And then I came home and oh yeah, it looked like this. Homegirl recited her whole day before she told that her husband was in the bed unresponsive with a gun in his hand. So the police get there and they start talking to Anne to see what's going on. And Anne starts giving them the rundown. And she said that everything had started the night prior. She said that the night before, Anthony and Jackie was in their bedroom, so in the master bedroom, and they was looking on the computer for Jackie a car. Now, they didn't end up finding a car that Jackie liked in that moment. And after looking for this car, the two of them descended from the master bedroom down into the basement where Jackie's room was. And while they was down there, Anne said that she could hear Jackie and Anthony arguing. She didn't know what they was arguing about, but she knew that they was arguing. And eventually Anthony made his way back upstairs to the master bedroom where Anne was. And when he got there, he was pissed. He was not happy at all. Whatever they had just been fighting and arguing about downstairs in the basement had pissed him off to apparently his highest point of festivity, because he told Ann to get her shit and get out the room. He said, you gonna have to go in there and sleep with one of the kids or something, but get you, these dogs, these cats, and whatever else is in this room, and get out. And according to Ann, she listened. She did what he said, and she went in there and she slept with one of the kids that night. And she also said that he had been abusive to her, so I'm just guessing that in that moment she was scared of him, because ain't no way you about to tell me to get out of my bedroom because you mad at your little ting in the basement. What? But I ain't Ann, and Ann ain't me, so yeah. Anyway, Ann said that she woke up the next day and she started doing her normal routine. She dropped some of her kids off at school. She took one of them to the dentist and then dropped them off at school. And then she went back to the house to pick up her 13-year-old who had stayed home from school sick that day, went to the grocery store, and then went back home. And then that's when she found Anthony and called the police. And so far, everything that Ann is saying seems to be lining up with the evidence. So it's all seeming very plausible. But as a cautionary measure, and to be sure that they dot all their I's and cross all their T's, the police ask, okay, well, is anybody else in this house? Like, is anybody else supposed to be here? Do anybody else live here? Yada, yada, yada. And Ann was like, oh yeah, my husband's girlfriend, the one that I told you he was arguing with yesterday, yeah, she live in the basement. Oh yeah, and I forgot to tell y'all that Ann told the police that the day prior, okay, are y'all still following me? So back when she was telling them about the argument that Jacqueline and Anthony had, she also told them that when Anthony came back upstairs, he told her don't go in the basement and bother Jacqueline. So like I said, they asked her, do anybody else live there? And she like, oh yeah, my husband's girlfriend, she live in the basement. And they like, okay, well, is she home? And Ann was like, well, I don't know. I haven't heard from her all day, but I mean, she might be, but she might not be. I don't know. I don't be checking for her like that. And so they was like, okay, well, we just gonna go see if she in the basement. So as they going into the basement, one of the detectives said that there was some really loud heavy metal music playing that kind of gave him this eerie, just not easy feeling. And that's not to say that heavy metal is like, oh my gosh, so bad, like that it da 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 da. But given the situation and the circumstances, hearing that and going down into a dark basement was kind of like, ugh. So eventually they make it down into the basement where they find a deceased 25-year-old Jacqueline who had obviously suffered multiple stab wounds. And there was absolutely no way that this could have possibly been self-inflicted. So now they call the homicide team, and yeah, an investigation ensues. So in order to gather as much information as possible, they take Ann and her 13-year-old down to the police station and they interview them separately. So Ann goes through her whole story again, tells them exactly what she told them at the scene. And during the interview, they asked Ann what she think might have happened. And she said that she thinks Anthony killed Jacqueline, and then the next day he couldn't deal with what he had done the night prior, and so he took his own life. Now, as y'all know, in any death investigation, I mean, you know, barring a few, there are some exceptions, most of the time they take the bodies to have autopsies done. And this was done in the case of Anthony and Jacqueline, and it was found that Jacqueline had been stabbed 42 times, and some of those stab wounds were in fact defensive wounds. So Jacqueline, she fought hard. Unfortunately, her attacker just was stronger and had the upper hand in that situation. Now, as far as Anthony goes, he died from a single gunshot wound, and both of their autopsies, coupled with the fact that there was no signs of forced entry, all seemed to lead to a MS situation. However, this case will be flipped upside down once they removed the bullet from Anthony's body, because the bullet removed from him was a .380 caliber bullet, and there was a shell casing that was in the room that was also from a .380, and it was determined that the bullet did in fact match the shell casing. However, the problem came in when they looked at the gun that was in Anthony's hand, because the gun that was in Anthony's hand was a .45 caliber. So where these .380s come from? So what they did was they tried to see if the gun that was in Anthony's hand could potentially have fired these .380 caliber bullets, and they tested it and tested it and tested it a damn again, And there was absolutely no way that the 380 was being fired from this 45 caliber gun at all. It wasn't happening. It couldn't be done. It wasn't a thing. And so that meant that the gun was planted and somebody else did this. So Anne was taken in for more questioning, and they asked her would she be willing to take a polygraph test. And Anne was like, girl, I ain't got nothing to hide. You test me, strap me up, do what you gotta do. And she took that polygraph test with so much confidence. She just knew that she was about to pass, but she didn't. She failed with flying fucking colors. Okay. And they also tested the clothes that she had on that day and found that there was gunshot residue on said clothing. And when they told her that she failed the polygraph test and that there was gunshot residue on her clothes, her response was, that's weird. So this gunshot residue test and the polygraph, coupled with the ballistics evidence, led them to believe that Anne had some involvement in what happened to Jacqueline and Anthony. And so they swiftly arrested her, grabbed her cell phone, checked the messages, and lo and behold, there was messages to this one particular number talking about what had happened at her house. She had been calling and texting this one particular number. And that number they found belonged to her 13-year-old daughter's boyfriend, Gabriel. The young man from the beginning of the story that I told y'all was looking for a stable life and a stable household. Yeah. So naturally, they bring him in for questioning. And during this questioning, they really don't got to press Gabriel too hard because he really not about that life. He not about that street life. He play like he hard, but he really ain't. And so he immediately gave it all up. He spilled all the beans. And he said, okay, you got me. I did it. I killed Jacqueline and Anthony. But it wasn't my idea. Of course it wasn't, young man. We know. He said that the plan was devised by not only Anne, but her 13-year-old daughter as well. Because Anne said that Anthony was abusive towards her, and the 13-year-old said that Jacqueline was ruining her life because she overheard her dad and Jacqueline talking about starting a family and, just planning a life together. And she felt like Jacqueline was pretty much ripping her dad and her mom apart, even though her daddy had did that years ago. It was confirmed that they were potentially talking about starting a family because during the search of the basement, they did in fact find a pregnancy test. Now, it wasn't said if it was positive or negative, but nonetheless, a pregnancy test was found. Or even if it had been taken, nonetheless, the pregnancy test had been found. And so, yeah, homegirl felt like Jacqueline was ripping her daddy away from her mama, and Anne said that Anthony was abusive. I don't know how true or not true that is. We're not going to say that it wasn't true because it could have been true, but we don't know. And Gabriel told the detectives that Anne told him that if he took care of these problems for them, that he could come and live with them and pretty much be a part of this new little family that they would create. Now, why you okay with an 18-year-old dating your 13-year-old daughter? I don't know. But anyway, she's a manipulator and she played on his insecurity about having a family. We know. But still, nasty. And when it was all said and done, all three of them had been charged with both of the murders. Now, and she claimed her innocence. She said, I'm innocent until proven guilty, bitch. Y'all take me to trial because I'm not admitting to nothing. However, during her jailhouse calls, I'm not sure if homegirl just didn't listen to the message at the beginning that said this call may be recorded. I don't know why they think that may is like, oh, it may or it may not be. It will. It will be recorded, and it was. Homegirl kept incriminating herself on her jailhouse calls. Like, yeah, no, they're not going to listen to this one. Yes, they are. They did. And you caught. So after everything was said and done, she realized that they had enough evidence to convict her. And she ended up taking an Alfred plea. So basically, she was saying, I'm not admitting to nothing, but I am going to say that y'all got enough evidence that y'all probably will win if we took it to trial. And so with this Alfred plea, she was sentenced to 60 years in prison. And Gabriel, he gave it up at the beginning. He ended up just pleading straight guilty. And he too was sentenced to 60 years in prison. Now, the 13-year-old, she was sent to a juvenile facility and she was eligible for parole when she was 21 years old, which would have been in 2023. And I looked, but I really couldn't find if she had been paroled or not. So yeah, she may or may not be out. I don't know. But if she did get out, I really hope that she learned a valuable lesson and realizes that her mama played her like a fiddle and that she used her as a pawn in her sick twisted little game. And yeah, I just hope that she's grown from the situation. If she's not out of jail, well, girl, good luck. I don't know what to tell you. Overall, I do truly feel bad that 2 people lost their lives for some stupidity, really, because nobody deserves to have their life taken in this way. Hell, have their life taken in any way. But do I also think that 3 grown adults made a very poor decision? Yes, I do. Because I don't know in which way, shape, or form they thought that this was a good idea. Anthony wanted to have his cake and eat it too. I'm not sure what Jacqueline was looking for. She was a young lady with so much potential, with so much life ahead of her. She could have probably had anybody. And then, girl, why you let the girl live there? You could have said no. You could have left. You could have moved out. Like, Anthony didn't want you no way. And Gabriel, he just lost 60 years of his life. He ain't getting out no time soon. And he has been remorseful, but, you know, you did what you did. You got to face consequences of your actions. But, yeah, that is all I have for you all. Thank you all so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next one when we are in Massachusetts. Get your thumbnail beat. Alright, y'all, so we just gonna hop into today's case because if you know, then you already know. No. Alright, y'all, so we just hop in. Please. Alright, y'all, so if you know. No, wait. Alright, y'all, so we just gonna be hopping up. Get it together. Calm down. And he was essentially. Essentially he was constantly searching. And as a result of his home life and the way. So why that's not Wisconsin? When I read it, I was like, damn, why you ain't part of Wisconsin? But it don't really matter because fuck y'all, we got islands too. No, I'm just playing. I'm kidding. I don't even live there anymore. Why are we getting so worked up about a place we don't even live? Because it's my home. It's where I'm from. I don't care how long I've been here. I'm just saying. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It's fine. It's fine. Don't. Shh. It was said that she loved having coffee with her. Where's Michigan? Where's Maryland? And over to Lothian, Michigan. Nope. Now, like I said, this move was Anne's idea to take Jonathan. Who the fuck is that? Who is that? And Anne Arundel. And just to be sure that everything is, all the odds are crossed, no. And they asked, and they ended up, and in the interview, because the gun that was in Anthony's hand was a 9mm. No, 45. Oops. They don't really gotta press